entered the colder season, and last night it was raining. And this is when people like myself get misdiagnosed with things like seasonal depression or major depression and things like that. Because I've been fatigued and struggling to breathe for almost going on a week now because of the incident that happened at the house that I was living, which tightened up my lungs and probably caused a mast cell activation. And I used to just call it my inflammatory. I have an extreme inflammatory response to injury, all sorts of injury, physical injury, emotional injury, psychological injury, any sort of injury, like breathing in the wrong things, like fabuloso really affects my sinuses. And that was one thing that I struggled with my family and in the household where I was living, where they overused things like bleach and fabuloso, causing sinus issues. So when it's already flared up because of the hole that they made in the ceiling, and you add on those chemicals, it's really hard for the inflammation to go down. So I've been really struggling to breathe. I don't know which caused which or which is making which worse, but my blood pressure is getting higher, and I don't have my monitor with me, so I can't even say how much higher it's been. But essentially for my kidneys to be doing well, my blood pressure the high one needs to remain under 115. That's how I have learned that my body works. It's why I've stayed consistently on CBD and THC. However, because I want doctors to properly diagnose and get their fucking heads out of their ass, I stopped taking those things, and now I'm getting high blood pressure and a huge inflammatory response to all of the shit that the ECM people and the housing people and all of these people have been doing to me. Because everyone keeps telling me, well, it's because of the housing crisis. No, these people have been intentionally putting me through hell to gauge my responses. And they can say whatever the fuck they want, but when you already committed the pattern multiple times, it's really difficult to ignore it. And yeah, I can just keep pretending like it's crazy me that sees patterns that aren't there, but essentially you guys have been committing the same fucked up pattern over and over again. And I shouldn't have had to be reporting the housing person to be able to get things fixed in the house. That's illegal. That is illegal, and it looks like legal aid isn't going to help me find a lawyer, so I'm going to have to fucking call code enforcement and let them know what they've been doing. Because essentially, you guys aren't protecting individuals like me. You're causing things. And now my kidney hurts. I haven't been able to pee properly going on 2 days now. If I develop a kidney infection, this can be very serious because I don't develop regular infections. I don't develop them in my bladder. They usually begin in my kidneys. This can cause acute kidney failure. If my blood pressure gets too high, it can cause kidney dysfunction and acute kidney failure. It's why they used to have me on a shit ton of medications, including medications for my blood pressure to lower my blood pressure. I just found natural ways to lower that and to keep myself well, ginger and things like that. I'm doing all of that at a very minimal amount so that they can see the response and gauge the response in my body. I'm not going to keep pretending like these things aren't going on in my body so that you guys can feel better about not giving me the medical treatments that I have needed for years and that Kaiser kept ignoring me with. Kaiser kept pretending like these things weren't going on so that they didn't have to pay for the medical treatments. Instead, they kept calling it psychiatric problems. Yes, stress causes a huge inflammatory response in my body. However, stress is not the reason that my kidneys are fucked up like this. Possibly prolonged stress. It's why I've been diagnosed with CPTSD, because my family has been torturing me for years. And this torture has led to autoimmune dysfunction. But I can't change that. I've just been working through it. And not because I haven't been going to get psychological help and be in programs to help myself. It's how I learned to heal myself with herbs and different techniques outside of the medical complex, because essentially they just kept adding more medications and shutting down more organs than what was my original problem, which was just my kidneys. you guys are literally exacerbating health conditions for no goddamn reason other than to torture people into compliance. To torture them into compliance. Because essentially, most of us can't even get a full-time job. So that in itself, you guys are pissed off. Oh, well, go look for a job so that you can get an apartment. You guys are fucking stupid. I've been so fatigued that I'm sleeping most of the day since my kidney stopped letting me pee. But essentially, even when they put me on the 5150 hold that my blood pressure was so high, they didn't want, and this was years ago, I think almost 10 years ago, they didn't want to give me my blood pressure. I requested my blood pressure medication and they denied me my blood pressure medication because they wanted to give me psychiatric medication. And I'm like, you do understand that the psychiatric medication that you're trying to give me is the psychiatric medication that was given to me for my stomach and gut issues because of my mobility issues, gut mobility issues, and the fact that I would vomit when I eat because of how my stomach is. Not because I had psychiatric issues. That started to get diagnosed later because of my reaction to the denial of care, to the delay in care, because you couldn't figure out what was going on. So you guys just kept over prescribing psychiatric medications that actually cause psychosis and other issues, because essentially inflammation in your body or overactive inflammation in the body can cause overactive inflammation in the brain, making it difficult to think. And last year's flare-up around this time of the year is what caused these motherfuckers to assign ECM to me, because I needed help, because eventually my brain is going to stop thinking for itself and I'm going to have to rely on other people, which is essentially what they're fucking trying to do. You are trying to force me to give up my independence so that you can prove a point, when in reality, the only point that you are proving is that you guys are unwilling to provide assistance until we are dying or until you cause organ failure, because essentially that's what you're doing. I've done everything to keep my mind well and sound during this entire process so I could prove what you guys are doing. But if I get nephrotoxic and my kidneys shut down, I really do hope my mom finally gets her head out of her ass and actually sues you motherfuckers. If I die in this process, I hope that the government looks into everything that Kaiser has done to me and everything that the ECM program through Medi-Cal Kaiser has done to me. I hope that they look really deep into everything that has been done to me in the last year and every single one of the phone calls, because essentially they were, quote unquote, recording the phone calls. So thus, you should have the evidence you need to prove that you guys have been torturing me instead of trying to help me. Because you think that the reasons that I don't help myself is because I'm being lazy. No, my brain is literally shutting down. If I get into a car accident because my vision is impaired and I'm living on the streets and having to consistently be moving my car to get to doctor's appointments and to be able to get to safe places to park during different times of the day, you are fully responsible and liable for this, because I've been asking for help for my eye for years. And essentially, everything is being directed back to the fact that I need a proper neurologist to help me with these problems. The closest appointment I could get was January. So just keep that in mind, because essentially the longer you keep me on the streets, the more likely I am to have a car accident, a seizure, a stroke, or more complications. Why? Because a lot of the migraines that I get mimic strokes and seizures. So essentially, if I'm not having a stroke and seizure, but that's what it mimics, that is what the paramedics are going to take me to the emergency room for. I've been under stroke protocol in the emergency room. I've had to call the ambulance when both of my legs go numb and I can't move. Since Saturday, I have puked twice in my sleep, which is either a really bad migraine or a possible seizure. Twice since Saturday. My dog has kept me alive because she will eat the vomit, put my head to the side, and keep my mouth open with her own mouth. I shouldn't be going through this shit, but I am. And I'm not the only one. That's what I've been saying for over 5 years. You guys kill people doing this. The government kills people, the Social Security Administration, Medi-Cal, Medicare, all of you motherfuckers kill people by doing this. It isn't a fictional thing. And I called the ACLU. I never got a call back from them. I called Sacramento, and the ombudsman kept sending me to the complaint process in Kaiser. And this is where that process has led me. I'm once again sleeping out of my car because the conditions of the housing that they placed me in are not good for a person with my health issues. They're not good for my psychological health, for my emotional health, or my physical health. None of that. None of that was taken into consideration before placing me in the spaces that they have been placing me in, just like my family. So you want to call what my family does abuse, which I'm 100% with you. I've been saying it for over 10 years. It's abusive, everything that they've been doing. Very abusive. However, it's exactly what you guys do. It's a mimicked behavior of the circumstances that this government keeps us in. It's a mimicked behavior because they think it's okay to mistreat disabled people. It's not okay. And because I can actually communicate right now, I'm making these videos to ensure that if I die in this process, the ACLU does something about it, or my family does something about it. But ensure that none of that money goes to my family. None of that money. If I die during this process, none of that money goes to my family. Give that money to programs that will actually open up housing for individuals with my conditions. Because they've been trying to cause a mental health condition when I do not have the mental health conditions that I have been diagnosed with. I have CPTSD and PTSD from the harm that has been committed on me, but I do not have all of the mental health conditions that these people claim that I have, that they have been lying about me having. Because even the psychosis was medically induced psychosis, chemically induced psychosis. It's in my charts. It's chemically induced psychosis. And you can say that it's because of the drugs that I used to try to commit suicide, but essentially I was already suffering from that, from the chemicals I was already being given, because essentially Wellbutrin is a form of methamphetamine. It is a form of methamphetamine, and I don't give a fuck what you say about it. Seroquel is a form of heroin. It's a form of heroin because it gives you similar effects to what opioids give you. I've never had heroin, but described and by people who have used and bought each other's meds to be able to do that, I can tell you it is a form of heroin. Heroin addicts will ask for some of these medications and steal some of these medications, because a lot of my medications, including lorazepam, was stolen out of my backpack when I was in school multiple times, and when I was in the hospital with my niece, it was stolen out of my bag. Essentially, people who are addicts will steal these medications. I have proven time and time again that I am not an addict. And I have had to prove it just so I can get medical care. Now, I am not taking anything, not even my essential herbal supplements, to demonstrate what my body does when it's put under these conditions, because I will no longer tolerate any of this bullshit. So when my mind goes, because it's already starting to go from the inflammation, usually I have a lot more clarity in the mornings, and I don't have it. My eye is completely blurry this morning. My right eye is completely blurry, and my left side is very weak right now. I'm having a lot of difficulty moving because of the migraines that I'm suffering, and my kidney hurts like a bitch, and I'm having trouble to pee. My chest is so tight, and I don't know if it's because of the lung complications that I'm having, or if it's because of the chest tightness that I've had for years that has always been blamed on anxiety, when it's not anxiety. The pain it's not just in the chest, it radiates to the back of my shoulder. And it eventually makes my pancreas gets really swollen, and they call that idiopathic pancreatitis. By the time I start vomiting, I'm already going to be at a point where I've lost mental clarity, and I'm already going to be at a point where I can't defend myself any longer. So if I die in the hospital or on the streets because of these complications, I really want the ACLU to go after the ECM program and kaiserpermanente for everything that they have been doing to me. I want them to also call the housing authority, because I called legal aid, who was supposed to help me with these things, And I want you guys to call code enforcement and send code enforcement to the address where I'm registered as living. Okay, I'm not going to say the address here because essentially legal aid, Kaiser ECM, has been internally handling these things and denying it going any further, just doing the bare minimum instead of actually repairing the things in the house, doing the bare minimum and putting the residents in the home at risk. Not just at risk from not having access to a restroom or kitchen, but also at risk from not having proper electrical currents. Essentially, if I connect my medical equipment to the room that doesn't have proper electrical current, this can cause a house fire, just like it was trying to cause at my mom's house and almost caused at my mom's house. And I told her for years what was going on. And essentially, these are people who do not want to be told that their behaviors and their lack of attention to these things cause long-term harm. Long-term harm. When I was living in my mother's home for over the last 10 years, I've been complaining about the mold problem. I've been addressing it when it comes to the surface, and you can actually see the mold growing on the outside of the walls, in the bathroom, in the closet, in the garage, and in the bedroom that is the front bedroom that gives to the front of the house. I have been doing that for years because I was developing candida overgrowth to the point where I had fungus coming out of my nose, mouth, and ears, and other respiratory infections, including tongue and thrush and stuff for over 6 months after my hysterectomy. Then I ended up getting symptoms of COVID and stuff like that at New Year's of 2020. I was in the hospital and they almost killed me at Palomar Hospital. I'm giving you all the points of reference for you guys to actually do the research. And if you need me to sign a waiver so that the ACLU can get all of my medical records from Kaiser, Palomar Hospital, Inland Valley Hospital, the times I've had to call the emergency paramedics and stuff to take me, I was taken to Poway when both of my legs went numb a few years ago after I received my last injections. I struggled with it a lot in the beginning where both of my legs would give out. So I really want you guys to look into this and actually do something about it, because if I die during this process, it wasn't from doing everything that they have told me to do. On the contrary, I have done everything step by step how ECM has told me. And not only have they given me misinformation the entire time, they have consistently led me astray. Legal aid has been on the phone with me when Medi-Cal told me that I no longer was enrolled with Kaiserpermanente, when in fact I am enrolled with Kaiserpermanente until the end of this month. And I don't get my new insurance until next month. And I keep getting told by homeless and by the housing and all that bullshit that I needed to wait until the insurance came back. And yesterday or the day before yesterday, Kaiser ECM housing person that they assigned to me called me saying that she could help me till the end of the month. Fuck you guys. Because I've been saying this since this shit happened at the house, and you guys tried to tell me that I didn't have these services. You tried to tell legal aid, Nick, who was on the phone with me, that I didn't have these services or these coverages. It's not my imagination. This is what the Medi-Cal system has been doing. The ECM system has been doing. And you guys keep telling me to have patience, but the amount of stress that you're causing on my body is literally forcing organs to shut down. It's forcing my clarity to go again. And it's not because of mental health problem. It's because of a severe inflammatory response in my body. If they try to convince you that I have mental problems, please look into the notes of these people that are trying to convince you that these are mental health problems. Yes, I have PTSD because of this bullshit. I'm not going to deny that. I do. And I react to abuse in the same way. I mimic the behavior of the abuse that I'm sustaining. Why? Because I'm tired of putting up with abuse. Abuse from the system, abuse from individuals who claim they want to help disabled people and in fact are harming them, and family members who do the same thing. I am done. I am done with this. And if I die in this process, it's not because I commit suicide, because I am not suicidal. It's not because I wasn't going to my medical appointments, because I am keeping up with my medical appointments despite all of this. And it most certainly wasn't because I didn't ask for help. If you find drugs in my system, make sure that you do a full autopsy and that you go ahead and research what actually killed. Because I'm starting to develop what they called kidney stones, or not kidney, the throat, what are they called? From these things in the back of our throat. You develop these nasty smelling little stones. That's usually an indication that I'm starting to develop fungal infections and respiratory infections. I only develop those when I'm developing respiratory infections, and the last time it led to a very severe fungal infection in my ears, nose, and throat. This is what the ECM program has been putting me through for months, trying to take my independence from me instead of helping me retain my independence. Trying to force me to go back because of desperation to live under my abusive household when they have been continuously abusing me. So if I die or I develop severe infections that leave me unable to think for myself or to care for myself, please ensure that these people do not get away with it. Please ensure that these people do not get away with it, because they don't understand mast cell activation syndrome. They don't understand hypermobility syndrome. My shoulder has been having trouble all week. My hip keeps slipping out of place because of how much inflammation I'm under. My fingers keep slipping out of place because of the inflammation I'm suffering right now. And my breathing is getting more difficult. So just keep that in mind. If I die in this process, it was because of everything that they have been doing despite me asking for help. I've had my housing referral since May or June of this year, just so you know. And they were supposed to prevent me from becoming homeless, and instead, they exacerbated my homelessness. My family, kaiserpermanente, and the ECM program. They all exacerbated my homelessness, and they are exacerbating my medical conditions. I do not have psychiatric conditions that require medication for psychosis and things like that. If you do that to a person with mast cell activation, you're only going to make the inflammation worse, and it takes us longer to recover. It's what I've been trying to tell you motherfuckers for years. It takes longer for us to recover because you're not treating the proper things. You're not treating the proper injuries or what's causing the inflammation and migraines in the brain. So, if anything happens to me, this is the evidence of what's been going on. Please, ACLU and everybody, do an autopsy. If you need me to sign any paperwork so that you guys can start the investigation now, I am willing to do that now, because I have requested a lawyer from legal aid multiple times from multiple legal aid employees and 211, and I have not been given that information. It's not freely given because everything that they have been doing is intentional. And they're trying to cover up what they have intentionally been doing. And I don't know how to work the court system. On the contrary, when I tried to get help because of what police officers were doing to me, they put me through the ringer. When I tried to get the restraining orders against the family members who physically assaulted me, nobody heard me. No one did anything. I had to get a restraining order against my own mother because she is the one who has been placing me in these harmful situations for years. Not just harmful because of the people she brings to the house, but also harmful because she refuses to fix things in the house that are actually causing my conditions to get worse. Not because of mental health conditions, because when you have a candida overgrowth in your brain, sometimes the words that I'm saying in my brain are not the words that are coming out of my mouth. Sometimes the clarity that I wish that I had isn't. So I use a lot of metaphors to describe the things that I'm going through. A lot of metaphors. Why? Because it's easier for me to connect to dragons and fairies and things like that than it is to admit
that my family is as abusive as they've been. Because when I do that, I get physically, emotionally, and psychologically attacked by family members. My niece even got a restraining order on me and tried to press charges on me when she was the one who physically attacked me. All I did was defend myself. That is all I did. And that's all I've ever done. I've never been the one who starts the problems. I've only ever defended myself. And the police department did not help me. The Lake Elsinore Police Department did not help me. They made the situation worse. They made the situation worse. So if I die in this process, make sure that you also go after them, because they had a huge role in when I was placed on the 5150, because essentially I requested help multiple times, and because of the lies that my family was spewing, and because of the misinformation of what the psychiatric medication that was given to me for, because lorazepam is used for other things, it's not used just for psychiatric problems. Because of that, essentially they got away with doing all of these things to me. And I cannot go back to a system that continues to do that. I would rather die on the street